And this is what he comes up with. The Dolphins get Dak Prescott and give the Cowboys the 5th overall pick and a 3rd round pick. And he writes, if the rumors are true that the Dolphins aren't in love with Tagovailoa, here's a plan B that pushes Miami towards contending much quicker than anybody expected. The Cowboys have repeatedly balked at paying Prescott the sort of contract he expects. And if they don't want to end up in a Kirk Cousins situation and lose Prescott to free agency under 2 franchise tags, they're going to have to trade him before he has all the leverage in 2022. The Cowboys would be moving up here for a non-Burrow quarterback with somebody such as Jordan Love stepping in as the immediate starter who become more of the run-first Cowboys offense. This trade values Prescott something close to the 17th pick in a typical draft on the Jimmy Johnson chart. The Cowboys stuck the exclusive franchise tag on him because they didn't want to run the risk of losing him for 2 first-round picks, but I suspect they feared that a team like the Patriots might steal him away for 2 picks in the late 20s. The Dolphins, who shouldn't have any trouble giving Prescott the deal he wants, would still have 3 first-round picks in the draft to build around their franchise quarterback. With the Patriots losing Tom Brady and seemingly planning to build around Jarrett Stidham, the AFC East is suddenly open up for business. And if Miami trades for Prescott and drafts wisely around him, it's not crazy to imagine a scenario where they're competing for the division in 2020. So, obviously, he is running this under the guise of these are not realistic trades. I mean, it's probably most likely that the Cowboys aren't going to trade Dak Prescott. But we have been under this contract dance now for a year plus, talking about when are they going to pay Dak Prescott, when are they going to pay Dak Prescott. Doesn't seem like we're any closer to it. It's kind of all seems like it's at this big stalemate. He did just have this little incident, small incident where he had this big party, and the CEO Stephen Jones had to reprimand him for hosting a party during a pandemic. So, what do you think of this idea? Do the Dolphins? Let's just say the Cowboys were interested in making a deal and moving on from quarterback. If you're the Dolphins, are you interested in making a deal for Dak Prescott, knowing what you're going to have to pay him?
Yep.
Really?
Because guess why? A proven player is always better than a prospect. Always. Always, I don't care.
Even if you feel like
you know what you're getting.
You do know what you're getting, but do you feel like are you getting a guy who you know you're going to have to pay like the best quarterback in the league, not knowing that he is that?
But with that position, it has nothing to do with whether you're the best. It has to do with when your contract's up. That's it.
Right. That's true.
So, like, to make it sound like it's anything other than that, we all know what that deal is. But, come on, man. What is your goal at that position? To have a guy who you know is going to be your quarterback for 10 years. I mean, are you comfortable? Now, if you don't like Dak Prescott, then it becomes a whole different conversation because you think that that's not him. That's not the guy you would do that for. I am a little wishy-washy, right? But I would still take Dak Prescott over any quarterback coming out in the draft. Not because they won't be better, but because I know what I'm getting.
The only thing I would say with Dak that just worries, like Dak has had, been set up where he's had an amazing offensive line. It hasn't been as good, like last year, but he has, an elite running back in Zeke Elliott. He's had Amari Cooper. We're always talking about how guys are going to be set up for the future. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like Dak Prescott's coming into as good a situation if he comes to Miami. Although Devontae had a great year last year, is he as good as Amari Cooper? I don't think we feel that. I don't think he's quite at that level. And
I think they're different, though.
And their running back
different
is
types of guys. You know what I mean? I don't think of Amari Cooper as a guy who's gonna go up and catch a ball and steal a ball. And I think with Devontae Parker, he's more of an outside guy. He's not working the middle of the field as much. And he's probably not going to have as many opportunities as an Amari Cooper just because of how he's built. You know, how he's built and the things that he does.
Dak Prescott last year, he was second in the league in passing yards, 4,900, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. And he was what, fourth in QBR last year as well.
What do you don't want that?
He was pretty good.
Now let me ask you this. Remember we were talking about giving up 3 first-rounders for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Okay, Dak Prescott had a better year. Why do we feel better about Deshaun Watson?
I don't know. Deshaun Watson just excites me more. He just excites.
Right. But just because somebody excites you more doesn't mean he's better.
I know, but I can't help it.
You see what I mean? Like, here, we pick and choose where we like somebody. So when we look at college players, right? We just go through a stat line. Oh, look at these stats. These stats are awesome. He can play at the next level. Now, that's for us who don't get to see these guys or don't get to review film. But when we see, professional players, right, we put titles on their numbers. So, as you would say all the time with the quarterback in Jacksonville, empty stats. Bum. Right?
Well, I will say if you want to put one thing up against Dak Prescott, and I know it's not all. I know this might drive you nuts because it's not an all quarterback thing, but I mean they were 8-8 last year and had massive expectations. So though the numbers were good, they were a team that really underperformed in a lot of people's eyes. And I know that the Cowboys in general get overrated a lot, but people didn't think they were going to be 500. People were talking Super Bowl last year with them.
And they also fired their coach. So is it safe to say, and you've also heard comments about the owner and what he was saying about the coach during the course of the year, about some of the decisions he was making. So
right. But that's one of those things with Jason Garrett distraction. Like that's been a distraction over the Cowboys for a decade, right?
Yeah, true. But still, they kept the quarterback and got rid of the coach, meaning that if there's any questions you had about that record, it's falling more on the coach. Now, in fairness to the coach, I mean, they are kind of putting it on the quarterback too because they ain't paying him. Dude threw for 5,000 yards and he's haggling about contract.
Right.
That's something crazy. That's crazy in itself too. So they must think something. Now, you throw for almost 5,000 yards, man. You can't be a bum. You can't.
I mean, I know, but if think about this though, if that is the case, like let's just say this did happen in a wacky scenario where they actually did make this trade. You're talking about the 2 leading passers last year. Actually, if you look at the stats last year, the 4 leading passers last year were Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Phillip Rivers. 2 of those guys aren't with their teams anymore.
And one of them don't have a job.
Yep.
So
one of them don't have a job.
So how important is the position?
Well, how important is the statistic of just passing yards?
Okay, but guess what? That's what we look at.
I know.
Right? Because guess what? In this past playoff, what was the biggest complaint about 2 of the quarterbacks?
Can't pass.
Right. Well, they didn't throw it that many times.
No, they didn't.
They didn't throw it enough times to win. So,
Robbie, let's get to some headlines, Robbie. And then give your thoughts. What do you think of this trade?
This is WAXYAM South Miami and WSFS-FM HD2 Miramar, a radio.com sports station.
To answer Leroy's question about how would he rather have Dak Prescott than any of the quarterbacks in the draft, I think I'd rather have Joe Burrow than Dak Prescott. Maybe Tua, Just because I mean, even if they don't work out, you're paying them a lot less. You're not giving them the 35, 40 million. So I think Joe Burrow is a better prospect than giving Dak Prescott like 35, 40 million.
I am a little surprised that, like, in Barnwell's scenario, he basically has a pick swap, and the Dolphins basically just having to pay Dak Prescott. I'm kind of surprised. Like, I feel like if you were to trade for a guy like Dak Prescott, I feel like the Dolphins would just have to straight up give up their first round pick.
Here, if Dak Prescott was with the Dolphins and you pulled off that trade,
8.5 needs,
and you're a Dolphins fan, would you be pissed off?
Yeah, they gave him number 5. I would think I would be. I don't think I'd give him number 5 for Dak Prescott. I'd rather.
Really?
I think I'll give up 18
really?
or 26, maybe both 18 and 26. But I don't know if I'd give up 5.
So this is clearly something you have against Dak Prescott, because there's actually nothing that you could say to me right now that would lead me to believe that he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL and not
we talked about
top quarterback in the NFL.
And we talked about best quarterback in the division. I mean, he would be the best quarterback in the division.
Right. So what's the problem? Like, you all have your reservations too, so you can understand why the Cowboys do. But why?
I'm not saying
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm not saying he's Nick Foles. But
why would a guy that threw for 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, are you saying I'd rather have the 5th pick in the draft than him?
Well, the stats might not transfer over to the Dolphins. Like we saw that with Foles and the Jaguars. I'm not saying
no. We know that. We know that. But guess what? I mean, I'm more than sure that when Cincinnati drafts their quarterback, Joe Burrow, he ain't gonna throw for 60 touchdowns, right? Like no, it's not.
I tell you one thing though, I made this, I made this point with Watson where people weren't down with trading all those picks for Deshaun Watson, and I was kind of surprised. I do think that there is something to the Dolphin fan wants. They've been waiting so long to get their guy, their quarterback. I don't think, unless you're making that guy a guaranteed elite quarterback, and I know it sounds crazy not talking about a guy who was 30-11 last year and 4,900 yards. I still don't know if people look at Dak Prescott as an elite quarterback. I do think that there's something that I think that the Dolphins fan probably wants to see if they can build a team with a guy on a rookie QB contract, and 2, they just want their guy. Like, they want the guy who they drafted. They want that moment of them drafting the quarterback, and they want that guy to work out and be their franchise guy.
Okay, that's fine. But what's funny is that here's the text. Prescott was that good with one of the best old lines of football and the best running back in the game. And also puts a kink in your plan to get good, cheap talent. Agreed. That's all fine. But can you answer this question for me? Why are we so willing to say Prescott played with one of the best lines in football? That's why his numbers are skewed. He's really not that good. But not say that Ryan Tannehill had the worst offensive line and say he's not that bad. You understand what I'm saying? We pick and choose when we want.
This is going to drive you nuts, but this texter speaks to my soul when he says, to quote Tobin, he's fine. He's
I know.
2.0.
I know, but my question is, we take the reasoning and apply it to one guy and then give the next guy a pass based on whether we like him or not.
People don't seem to be in it. And I wonder, I don't know, again, I don't even know if it's so much not wanting to trade for Dak Prescott or as much as it is the Dolphin fan just wanting to get their own guy. I think it's one of those things with, like, for example, how, like, I think it's kind of like why Tyler Hero's popularity rose so much this year with the Miami Heat. Like, every time that he hits a bucket, it's like, wow, feels like the Heat really nailed their guy. Like, really got their own guy, got Baby Goat, and every time he hits a basket, the place goes nuts. You're like, yeah, we're gonna have Baby Goat for years to come. Tyler Hero's hitting buckets. Of course, that's unless we trade him for Donovan Mitchell. That's another story for another day. That's just. I'm not thinking that. I just just all fields have to be open. But that is what that's something that's sort of out there on ESPN by Bill Barnwell. I do think though. I'm trying to remember. Let me see what the poll results were for the Watson trade, because I feel like that also got just wild negativity as well. We asked, would you trade 4 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson?
Well,
and that was...
You went over that. That was, like, you talk about big boy trades. That's unreasonable.
Is it?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I don't think it is.
The best of the best players I've seen go for maybe 2 first-rounders. That's it. So you're going to double that?
Here's the thing, though. I think I look at it as I'm giving up this first-round pick, Laramie Tunsil, and another first-round pick. Like I just think we get caught up crazily with these picks.
4 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks, dude. Like there ain't no name a player right now. There's probably one player
Mahomie.
that I would get, huh?
Mahomie.
That's it. And guess what? And I would almost argue that if he ain't got Andy Reid with him, it's not going to be the same guy.
Maybe. I just think that I think part of that goes to I think people have been waiting this long and they want to draft their guy. They want their quarterback.
Don't complain.
Don't complain with who it turns out to.
Right. If I tell people you had a choice, think of how crazy this sounds. You have a choice between Dak Prescott and the 5th pick in the draft. And people say, I'd rather have the 5th pick in the draft. Then you're almost, I'll live with whatever happens, right?
Texter writes,
I would rather have that opportunity.
Texter writes, and the only time Dak has jumped off the screen is doing a hip warm-up. That stat line is impressive as hell, but I still say no, Leroy. Giving up the 5th pick, not bad at all, but paying him is where I'm not convinced.
Now, that's a whole nother conversation, okay? But paying him, is that any different than, say, drafting a quarterback and not having him in 4 years because he's bad?
Yeah. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, like, if just a guy flames out because he's unproven.
He's not good. Not good. I mean, look, I get, like, you know, if you had to think of the quarterbacks that have had success, but you're like, Dak is one of those guys. But we say that about 10 guys, right? I mean, we can say it about Jared Goff. Yeah, right? Like, are you sold on Jared Goff?
No.
You think? Let me ask you a question.
Although solid of him to say he's going to restructure his contract because if it'll help the team.
But yeah, okay, he'll go from what, 27 million to 25?
I don't know.
You're right. How about this? Would Chicago trade the 2nd pick in the draft for Dak Prescott, knowing what they were going to end up with?
With Mitch Trubisky? Yeah, I think they'd take him in a heartbeat.
Okay, it's proven versus non-proven.
But
like, it may not be the quarterback you think.
But
may not be Patrick Mahomes, but you've seen him have success in the league.
Yeah, but doesn't this go to your theory of, like, that last piece guy? Like, is Dak just good enough to be the guy who just doesn't screw it up? You know what I mean? Like, if you put him on the Bears, the Bears are probably that quarterback away. With the Dolphins, they're starting from scratch, and you would want to have that guy on his rookie contract to be the guy as you're building everything together. I do think there's an argument to that.
Yeah, but I can honestly say, I think there's a couple of quarterbacks that are going to get drafted higher than they would normally have got drafted, and I'm not going to even say it about Justin Herbert because Justin Herbert would have been a top 5 pick last year, right? But with the injury concerns of Tua and Jordan Love, right? I think those are 2 guys that may get drafted higher than they would normally get drafted if so many teams didn't need a quarterback. So, yeah, like, I mean, I'm always gonna take the player, and I'm gonna keep saying this. I'm take player based on what I've seen. Like, to say 4,900 yards is pedestrian is crazy, and it's not like the Blake Bortles. It's not like Blake Bortles where he had one good year.
No, he's had good years.
Right.
He's had good years, but that's how quarterback is, and they did have a disappointing year, a very disappointing year.
Oh no, they did. And you can put whatever twist you want on it. Some people texting in, hey, they were always playing catch up, so he threw for a lot of yards. Man, I don't care what your situation is. You throw for 5,000 yards, you're doing something. I mean, guess what? Who's my man in Detroit? He been throwing for 5,000 yards every year.
Talking about Stafford?
Stafford been throwing for 5,000 yards every year.
Yeah.
Right? Like they went 0-16.
Now he's got a broken back. Well, they go 0-16 to get him. He wasn't part of the 0-16.
Oh, he wasn't? Okay.
That was your boy Arlovsky, I believe, running out of the back of the end zone. who now is giving quarterback advice. Is letting me know.
Oh my goodness.
Let me know who the guy is. Right. By the way, I'm getting this is getting very negative backlash on social media, Leroy. People are not about it. Lot of gifs of people saying hell no.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Would you okay, so if I put you on the other side. Say Dak Prescott plays for the Dolphins already. Mm-hmm. Or and I can't find a good and you guys went 8-8 last year, but Dak threw for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Would you trade him for the 5th pick in the draft?
Well, you
understand what I'm saying?
That's what we're asking.
No. You're doing it the other way. I'm saying if you had Dak, would you trade Dak?
Oh, instead of paying him?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that's got to be in question if you're the Cowboys is if this has been a debate now for 2 years, more a year. Let's just say a year plus of them paying him. I think that they got to have some reservations about it. Now, here's the thing. I mean, like, if you're the Redskins, would you rather be in a scenario right now where you have paid Kirk Cousins all that money after they franchised him left and right? Or would you rather hope that Dwayne Haskins turns into something? Because that's kind of where you're heading towards.
Yeah.
That's the place you're going to. If you feel like Justin Herbert can do what Dak did, because remember Dak waltzed right in and took over for Tony Romo, who got hurt.
Right.
So do they think they're in that kind of place where they could just plug in any guy who's of decent talent and be good? I don't know. But I think it's the contract that weighs heavily over both decisions. Like, if you got Dak Prescott and you didn't have to pay him, I mean, that's one thing. But the fact that you might have to pay him, what is he talking, 35 a year, 40 a year? I mean, it's insane money for a guy who was the quarterback of an 8-8 team last year.
How about this? Somebody tried to get me. You just said he threw 49 yards. You don't care who he is. What about Winston? Well, how about this? 30 for 30. That's all you need to know about Winston. I'm not boxed in. 30 for 30.
Right.
30 touchdowns, 30 picks.
Yeah, I was going down a rabbit hole of like most amount of most amount of picks traded for one player, and obviously the Herschel Walker trade comes to mind. That was like 3 number ones and a buffet of other picks. And you also had Jay Cutler actually got traded for 2 first-round picks to go to Chicago. Ricky Williams got traded for multiple first-round picks twice. The Mike Dick traded his entire draft and a 1 and a 3 the following year to get Ricky Williams, and then the Dolphins traded a couple first-round picks to the Saints to get Ricky Williams.
Yeah, but my argument with if you were to my argument would be of trading like four first-round picks for a guy like Deshaun Watson or even Joe Burrow would be, one, you have a first-round pick next year. So in my mind, I'm essentially using my first-round pick to get an all-pro quarterback right away, or I'm getting the number 1 pick, who I guess is the best prospect. and then I just move on as business as normal next year. I'm going to have my number 1 overall pick because I have 2 first-round picks this year, 3 this year. So I'm using it. I'm getting that capital to get a guy who's already established. I just feel like we're overthinking it just because of the number of picks. But I'm not in this like crippling position like the Redskins were or the Rams were, giving up all these picks year after year after year. You're going to be like any other team next year, Leroy. You'll have a first-round pick.
Okay.
So I just don't find it to be that. I would just rather fill that hole with the best player possible. He's damn near. If it was Deshaun Watson, he's a damn year older than Joe Burrow. They're almost the same damn age. So yeah, that to me is that's why it's just not this gross overpayment. And I know I'm going into that with trying to trying to get something from somebody that they probably don't want to give him up that bad.
Right.
Text writes it. Dak Prescott is Kirk Cousins 2.0. I'm just saying. And I think the Cowboys probably are wondering to themselves, is he? That's probably why doesn't have his contract yet.
Well, I will say this about Dak Prescott. One of the things that they loved in Dallas about Tony Romo, he was a gunslinger. He took chances. He tried to fit in tight holes. And I don't think he threw a ton of picks. So even with those chances, he still had a lot of success. Dak Prescott doesn't seem like the guy who is gonna, take a lot of risk, but he has success. So a lot of people look at him and say, oh, he's just one of those guys. But yeah, man, there's a lot of teams that would kill for that. You think if Jameis Winston was that, you think he'd still be in Tampa Bay? Yeah. Because the thing that got him out of Tampa Bay was not the other stuff, it was the picks.
Right.
It was the making bad decisions with the football. That's why he's not there. So Dak takes care of the football. He puts his team in position to win. And so I see it. I get it. It's hard when you think Dak Prescott threw for 4,900 yards, because when you think of him in a way you think of Tom Brady, crossing routes, dink and dunk, doesn't throw the ball deep or whatever. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But isn't pretty much where football is now? I mean, besides Bruce Arians, besides Aaron Rodgers, there's not a whole bunch of quarterbacks that are just slinging it down the field.
Yeah, if you were to look at he was last year, he was 5th. He was right behind Patrick Mahomes in yards per attempt last year. Dak Prescott.
Which is okay. That means he's not a dink and dunk guy. Who were the top 2?
Ryan Tannehill is number 1. 9.6 yards per attempt. Then Matthew Stafford, who only played in 8 games. Garoppolo. Hey. You know what's funny is it's the top 2 guys who played basically played a full season was Tannehill, even though he played 12 games, but he also had playoff games, and then Garoppolo. So it's 2 guys who weren't passing at all in the playoffs.
Right.
Then Patrick Mahomes, then Dak Prescott, then Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins after that, and then Russell Wilson.
So and guess what? Ryan Tannehill, Dak Prescott, and Kirk Cousins. Shoulder shrug on all of them, right?
Shoulder shrug.
How about Garoppolo?
Shoulder shrug. Bless
so,
you.
And thank you. And now you got Dak.
Well, I think it's good. Just so you know, it's going to get even worse for that because of what Mahomes has done in his first 3 years. Because everyone's going to be looking for that.
Right. But guess what? So of all the quarterbacks that lead that stat, right? You shoulder shrugging on 5 of them.
Yep.
Everybody except Patrick Mahomes.
Deshaun Watson, middle of the pack.
So he's more of a thinker. Wait, you give the 5th pick in the draft for a guy who's in top 5 in that stat.
My favorite's
and the
Lamar.
guy who's in the
same as Lamar Jackson.
Was where?
They were both 7.8 per attempt. That's like middle of the pack in the league.
Right. So do you understand why I get so frustrated with what people think about sports?
Wow, Aaron Rodgers 20th.
Right.
Same as Gardner Minshew. Same as Fitzpatrick.
So let me ask you this. At what point are we going to take the numbers and ignore the person? Are we always going to look at the person and label that person and the numbers don't matter? Because guess what? If I tell you can have Aaron Rodgers, you say how much I need to give up.
Yeah, how much? And when?
Right.
When can I make that
Right.
trade?
Same thing about Tom Brady, right?
I don't want to tell
Drew
you.
Brees. Where's Drew Brees? He's last.
Drew Brees?
Tom
Drew Brees.
Brees-
Drew Brees is actually pretty high. Drew Brees is he's right behind Russell Wilson.
Okay.
Drew Brees is top 10.
Tom Brady's probably in the bottom.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't find Tom Brady's. These are the people that Tom Brady's amongst Andy Dalton.
Right. Right. But guess what? You know what they put on that? Like as terrible as that stat, right? Which is one of the stats they use mostly to evaluate a quarterback. Right? If I say, I don't want Tom Brady, his yards per attempt is terrible. You know what you say? This is what you would say to me. 6 championships.
6.6
You know,
yards.
numbers don't matter. 6 championships.
Yeah, 6.6 yards per attempt, 6 rings.
Right. So like
666.
when
That's the devil.
I would just like
And he is
to know
he is the devil.
I would just like to know, when do the numbers matter? Do they matter only when you're trying to make a point?
No, you can just tell when the numbers matter. It's hard to. It's just hard to explain. Yeah.
Really?
Anyway, we got to take a break. Mel Kiper, he needs to
I
calm
don't
down.
want to take a break.
We got to take a
That's
break.
silly talk.
You don't get. This isn't a podcast. It's a radio show. You got to take breaks sometimes.